Peter Pan was written by Scottish novelist and playwright J.M Barrie. In 1904 it was shown as a play, and in 1911 was converted to a novel. In case you somehow don't know, Peter Pan is a mischievous boy who can fly, dresses like he's looking for Zelda, and lives in Neverland where no kids age, and where mermaids, fairies, and other fictional creatures live alongside Native Americans and pirates. It's whack-a-diddly-doo. Nowadays, when people think Peter Pan, they're likely thinking of the on-screen iterations like the massively popular 1953 Disney cartoon, the 2002 Disney cartoon, or the 1991 Steven Spielberg film, Hook. There are countless other iterations, including Pan and Peter and Wendy, both released in 2015 and just aren't as popular. There are 2 NES games featuring J.M. Barrie's Flying Fella. The first was Fox's Peter Pan and the Pirates, based on the animated series of the same name that aired 65 episodes exclusively on Fox Television in 1990 and 91. The second is Hook, based on the 1991 film starring Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman that features a more modernized story. Well, let's see what's up with these. It just so happens that this game was the first game that Toy Headquarters, aka THQ, ever released. Here you play as Peter Pan, of course, and you're armed with a measly short sword. The goal in this platformer, as it is in most, is to move toward the right of the screen, kill all enemies in your path, and reach the end. You start the game with 3 lives and a limited amount of energy. You can increase your energy, or life, by opening treasure chests you find, and you can get an extra life by earning enough points. In the top right of the screen, you'll see a pirate counter, and you'll need to ensure that each pirate you come across is deliberately murdered. If you leave any, you can't face off against Hook to end the level. If you die, you'll start back at the beginning of the level, but thankfully on some levels there are contraptions that can launch you forward to skip ahead a bit. There are traps that really do nothing but aggravate you, and the enemies just walk back and forth, and are really no issue if you get the jump on them. There are sections where you'll absolutely have to fly though, and all you have to do to fly is press up. Flying is limited, as you'd expect, and you'll have to find little bags of fairy dust sprinkled around the levels to make it through. Flying can get you out of some predicaments, but never feels quite right. I experienced a few aggravations with it, but like anything else, it takes some getting used to. The level layouts are simple and even repeat, especially near the end. The 2 penultimate levels before the final fight against Hook are the exact same, back to back, so that's lame. Once you get to the end of a level, you go up against Hook, and all you really need to do is jump over him, and he runs away to the next level, presumably. Think Bowser at the end of a Mario level, but maybe don't think about that because this game is garbage by comparison. Don't get me wrong, Peter Pan and the Pirates is quite playable and beatable. It's easy to grasp and all that, but it's tough to enjoy. And I could excuse some of its basic shortcomings, as it's likely younger players who find some success with it will like it. But it could be so much better. Like I said, enemies offer very little in the way of challenge. The level design is as basic as it gets. There are no secrets or reasons to explore beyond the task at hand. Graphically, it's just not good, which is a shame since the source material of the game is a wonderful looking animated cartoon. And I probably don't even need to mention the music, but there's only one track, and it's awful. One nice touch is that to finish off Hook in the end, you make him walk the plank. That's fun, but aside from brief moments of forgiving the game for its flaws, you'll never really love it. It has been a long time since I've seen the movie Hook, but I don't remember it being based on how many desserts you can find in a swamp. That's this game's essential premise, and it took me a little bit to figure out how to get started. Like a lot of other games developed by Ocean, I'll surely cover here one day, Hook has a certain look to it. Blocky, fat-headed sprites and plenty of color. Usually I find Ocean's platformers to be a little slippery, but this one isn't too bad. Immediately you'll realize you're Peter Pan, and you have a sword, but don't bother ever using that sword, that's where I went wrong. Just avoid enemies completely if you can. Your goal in each level is to navigate the maze in front of you and collect all the specific treats before finding the exit. There's only one type of treat to collect in each, and it is indicated at the top of the screen. Each level type repeats, so you'll need to find cherries in forests, cakes in underground levels, peaches in lagoons, and so on. To get from level to level, you'll have to endure what is easily the worst part of the game, the map. It makes no sense, you can't see what you're doing or where you've been, and if you could, it would look like this. Terrible. On top of that, some levels need to be completed in order, which you'll have to guess around a bit to figure out. Sometimes when traveling between areas, you'll enter flying stages, where as Peter Pan you must soar through the skies and avoid the balloons toting explosive bombs in favor of those carrying pink orbs, which keep you airborne. The rest of the levels are the previously described hunts for dessert, and to be honest, I found it kind of fun. You have to figure out how to access certain parts of the level using the items found in the same level. You might have to scare away a yeti or ride a turtle, hop on some fairy dust to fly across sections. It's important to learn what all the pickups in the levels do, as they don't make it seem apparent by looks alone. For example, before you can ride the fairy dust, you have to find the marble in the level first. And to replace the measly sword, what is it with these games and their stupid inept swords? You can pick up a thimble that lets you use Tinkerbell to defend you in tough spots. There's even a fighting aspect of the game where you'll square off against Rufio, the leader of the Lost Boys. You'll have to battle him with your sword, and the winner is the one who damages the other's tunic the most, indicated at the top of the screen. It's a little weird and out of place. You'll need to get creative in the last couple of levels, and always be sure to read the hints Tinkerbell gives you after you finish one. The last bout against Hook is a little more involved than in the other game, just be sure to keep moving. Hook truly isn't a bad game, but it really had no business being based on J.M Barrie's source material. If the game were called Swamp Peaches or Tree Desserts, that would be more apt, and it might have been less of a disappointment for people expecting something a little more Petery Panny, or at the very least derivative of the film its namesake is based on. The version more Hook than Swamp Peaches came out on the Sega Genesis, Sega CD, and Super Nintendo. This version is a much better game in terms of referencing the source material, looks fantastic, and was mostly well received. The Game Boy version, however, is nearly identical to the NES version, but with almost twice as many levels. There's another Peter Pan game called Peter Pan and the Return to Neverland that released on the PlayStation and Game Boy Advance in 2002. And Power Regions got Peter Pan and the Legend of Neverland in 2005 that actually looks pretty decent. Alright, that does it for Peter Pan games on the NES. Don't eat cake you find underground, and thanks for watching.